Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Brittany.
And this is NFGeeks. Alright, Britt, I just did a video with Josh about NF moments, and these are some of my favorite kind of things to talk about with NF. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you about it for two reasons.
Okay.
One is that you can give, because I didn't say this specifically to Josh, but you can give a feminine perspective on this that obviously he couldn't. So there's that aspect. And also, it might be very similar because, like Josh, we think that you're an ENFJ.
Yes.
So it's a little debate on that, but I'm pretty sure that she's an ENFJ at this moment. So, all right. So why don't you talk about? Let's start us off. What has been the most recent or most powerful NF moment for you?
The most powerful NF moments, I think it's just. I was recently at a music festival.
Oh, just like Josh.
And I went with an INFJ friend of ours. And she was having fun, you could tell. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an E and I expect more from it or something. And I just knew she wasn't, so I ended up spending an entire night with her and we just talked and everything. And I don't know what it is about music festivals, but things get weird very quickly, and you just look at something and you're like, that's gonna go horribly wrong. And I was talking to her about it, and she's like, and she looks over and she goes, what's going on over there? I'm like, yeah, that's gonna go horribly wrong, isn't it? And she's like, and we just started laughing, and that's like one of the earliest ones that I can remember.
Oh, wow.
Right now.
Do you know, can you share what was the thing
I
that
don't
went
remember
wrong?
exactly what it was.
Was it the crowd or the music?
It was with the crowd. It was just like people watching. Yeah. So,
okay.
That was it.
That's a good one. I can see that. It's great. I always am interested when other NFs are involved because I feel it validates the NF moments because, you know, one person could just be crazy, but how do two people nail it at the same time without exchanging the rational process behind it? You know, that's one of the things I like about it. All right, what are some other ones you've had?
They happen a lot. It's just
Wow.
like anytime, even when I'm with my boyfriends, just like we'll be going about random things, and I'll just all of a sudden go, we shouldn't do that because this is going to happen. But he never believes me. He's an SJ, and he goes, you're crazy.
Okay, that's a great thing to talk about. So your boyfriend's an SJ.
Yes.
Do you know specifically?
Yes, FJ.
Okay. And I find SJs have a hard time with intuition in general, as it's one of their weaker, functions. And I can see them dismissing an NF moment. Oh, I know my family dismissed every NF moment I ever had, because I lived in an SJ compound, So, all right, so describe when that happens. Or if you can give a specific moment where you had an NF moment, you knew you were right, he didn't see it, and it happened.
We were just in New Hampshire this past weekend. We met a group of people there because we were climbing, and something happened. We ended up going to the river for a while. We came back, and there was this group of people playing this really annoying game. It just made beeping noises all night. And he's
You mean like a video game or something?
It's like one of those trivia games that you pass around.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
And he's one of those people, he always tries to make everybody happy and involve everybody.
Oh, that's so ESFJ.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're not, it's not going to go that way right now, and you're going to get very upset, so I don't know if you want to go do something else, or if this, and he's like, no, it'll be fine, so he goes over there, and he comes back 10 minutes later, fuming, because,
like an ESFJ,
yeah. Seriously angry, I don't, and I'm like, what's the matter? He's like, I can't believe those people, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I told you not to do it.
But he couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Does that ever manifest into a conflict between you two? Because that's an amusing story, but not necessarily a conflict.
It does. It does. Because he thinks I try to prove him wrong all the time.
Oh, really?
And it's not because I just see this happening this way. I see these certain amount of these events happening in this order to get come to this, and I think it comes off as, oh, you're just trying to outdo me all the time or prove me wrong, and I think that's a problem.
Now, with these NF moments, don't you prove them wrong, though?
Yes,
don't they seem to be right all the time?
I don't intentionally go out of my way to prove these things correct. I just let them unfold, and it just happens to be that I'm right.
Oh, wow. That's too bad. Because you would think after a pattern, he would sort of, pick up on it.
He doesn't believe in that.
It's very concrete sensor.
Yes, it's very odd.
Oh, that's good. All right, well, let's reverse this for a minute. I know this isn't an NF moment, but I just had this idea in my head. What are things that he's right about? What's an SJ moment? Not necessarily an intuitive moment, but what's an SJ sort of moment where he's right about something? Obviously not intuitive, but something sort of
so
SJ-like.
I think when he's right?
Yeah. Oh, boy.
That'll take a while. I don't think there's any right or wrong moments in like the way he presents things or how he sees things are going to happen. But he's very, I guess when it comes to rules, like when you shouldn't be doing this because this is going to happen, I guess. And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? Really? Like what? Who's going to do anything? But he's very, well, if we do this, this is going to happen. Usually when it's like crossing boundaries of some sort.
Yeah, that's a very SJ thing.
Yeah.
SJs like boundaries. They don't like, boundaries that are anything, whether it's people or their own world. I can see that.
Yeah, so it's like the only thing I can see when he's right about sometimes, where it can be like, you shouldn't do this because something bad's going to happen because we're not following rules or boundaries.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because there are moments where I have these sort of NF feeling things where like I go into Noah's room to tell him things that I think are really cool about the stuff that we like together, like whether it's Godzilla or video games, and immediately he's offended. Even though I'm going in to say something, like I'm not going in to yell at him to clean his room. Right, I'm going in to say, hey, I saw this thing about the Batman game where they said there's this Easter egg with this, and he's like, Dad! It's completely rejected.
Space,
right.
bro.
I've invaded the boundary.
Yes.
Yeah, So that's amusing. All right. So, all right, but again, you don't. Regarding the NF moments you have, it's not a conflictual necessarily.
Right.
Deal breaker.
Right. I don't like conflict anyway. So even if I
like
have
a good NF.
Even if I have a moment that could cause some sort of conflict, I'm usually like, I don't say anything about it.
Wow.
I know it's gonna happen, but I'd rather not start it or like say anything that could get people arguing or anything like that. So I spend a lot of the time I'm gonna not talk about this and just watch it instead. But it's like I make my own movies almost. I already know what's gonna happen. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, boy, that just jogged something out of me. Could it be that NF moments are really experiencing imaginative fantasy moments?
Yeah.
And that's what's actually, and our fantasies are actually projected onto reality, and they exist in a way that they're fairly accurate.
I've actually wondered that because I think like a lot of my NF moments are based on people being predictable. And so sometimes when I'm bored, I'll just have random moments go out my head, like with certain people or whatever, and having them act like they'd act. And then all of a sudden, weeks or whatever down the road, they'll do that. So it's always kind of interesting to just sit back and watch things happen because it's probably like, oh, I probably thought about this happening before.
Right. And I think what you're saying is that it's actually existing in a more fantasy, dreamlike, daydreaming sense, as opposed to like thinking about data and analyzing data. Like
it's just I'm bored and now this person's on my mind. Let's have this little skit in my head then.
Yeah, I actually had that about an ex-girlfriend that left me for another man, and I actually had played it out in my mind in a fantasy like 2 years before. Like I said, okay, here's how it's going to go down, and sure enough. Went down exactly that same way. I've been beating up myself about that for about 3 years.
If I thought about it differently, it would have went differently. But
maybe, yeah. Or why didn't I listen to myself? It seemed really clear.
Yeah.
Obviously I went into denial mode, right, as soon as I had the thought. But the time between the breakup and this whole thing and when I had the intuitive moment was like easly 2 years, maybe longer. So in that moment, we were actually clicking. So in a moment that we were clicking, I had this intuitive thing, and then it unraveled.
I just find that NFs are really good at reading people before, like, I don't want to say other feelings get involved, but just good at reading people on, like, a baseline before they get more involved with them. So they, like, learn all they need to know about them, like, upon meeting, but it's, like, other effects get in the way, and it just, like, boggles our actual view of them. Like, for me, I know people as soon as I meet them, but then I just build them up to be people they end up not being.
Oh.
So
does that interfere with the NF moment?
Yeah, I think it does because I'll have these moments with them or I'll play out these scenarios in my head with the baseline of who I think they are, and it usually ends up being far more true than like how I view them. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like
you're doing a good job.
It's like two completely different things: how I originally see them and then who I build them up to be. So I think most of my NF moments are based on how I view them upon first meeting. And that's how I think I base how they're going to act from now on.
See, that's very interesting because ENFPs do the same thing, and it never goes outside of that. If I get a first impression about somebody, I'm never surprised.
Right.
Ever. I've never been surprised
right.
by a first impression. All right, so again, I did this with Josh, so let's expand this out a little bit. Have you ever had an NF moment beyond just the social world or beyond just your boyfriend or immediate friends? Have you ever had an NF moment about something a little bit bigger? Could still be about people, but something out in the world that you like, like the concert, but maybe even a little larger.
Like watching things happen in the world?
Sure, even institutions, even the school we go to.
Mm-hmm.
Look at her face.
Yeah, it's it's kind of almost like an everyday thing because I work with people all the time, like all day. So I always, it's like I feels like I'm playing a video game sometimes. Like you remember Roller Coaster Tycoon? So you're like, this person's gonna go over here.
I actually have
here.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
So do I.
Yes, that's in the video game library. Yeah.
But it's just like I feel like, at any given time, I can just watch people for a little bit, and then say they're gonna do this, this, and this, and then they'll do it, and then leave. It's kind of weird. I feel like I'm controlling everything in a video game.
Has this happened in the place where you work?
Mm-hmm.
So just to let you know, Brittany is a tutor. Or are you still a tutor?
No, I'm a librarian.
Oh, you're a librarian now. Why? That's a fun job for an extrovert. Ooh, I wish I could be a librarian.
I guess I'll talk to people sometimes.
Oh, sure. Whatever. All right, and I'm very familiar with the
I'm a library
tutoring.
Assistant.
Right. That's even worse.
I know.
I'm very familiar with the tutoring because I was involved in tutoring at our school a long time ago, like 10 years ago, and I was actually involved in tutoring at the same place where you tutor, in the specific place where you tutor. This was ages ago. So what are some NF moments that happen regarding tutoring or library in that context? And I say that not because we can necessarily, they'll understand, they're going to understand abstractly, but I have a very clear understanding because I know some of the parties.
As far as when I used to tutor, or like when people need help in general, I can usually figure out very quickly what ways would be the best to show them how to do something. It's like, because not everybody learns the same or everybody reacts the same to certain situations, so I'm just very good at being able to, well, this is going to work for this person, so I'll go straight to that, like, tactic. So,
without a process.
Right.
Oh, that's great. That's very NF, because it's about helping the person.
Right.
Which is also very NF.
Which is the ultimate goal, and it's like, oh, I can go this path and just get there very
Sure. That's very NF-y. Yeah. Now, universities and colleges in general, and particularly the one that we occupy, are not very NF-oriented. They're not coming out of NF consciousness. They're not designed in NF consciousness. How does that work against you as an NF or NF moments? And it doesn't have to be NF moments. It could just be as an NF, too.
People think I'm weird.
Really?
Yeah.
They think you're weird?
They think I'm pretty weird.
Really? Have you gotten that people said that to you?
Yes. And I think, like, just the whole dynamic. Well, this is completely going off topic, actually.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no, I want to talk about this. We got a minute. Go ahead.
The dynamic of people in, like, that type of institution isn't NF-friendly at all. Because it's...
No, it's not.
I don't feel like... And for me as an ENFJ, or presumably ENFJ, I want to help people. That's my goal in general. And I kind of... I work with a ton of people who don't really want to help people.
No, that's
it's
right.
Like, it's very, throw you in, figure it out.
Yeah,
done.
That's right. And if they don't do it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who, like, tries to help people along the way, like, the whole process. And people just go, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's my job.
Do you find that they're critical of you personally?
Yeah, of how I do things to help people.
Wow.
So it's been very odd. It's been very tense.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I know, because I know the parties involved.
Yes.
So, because I've been in that because I sometimes teach in the same building and area that she works in. So, and that's why I know the parties. So this is very personal for me. I know who you're talking about and everything. All right. Well, great, Brett.
Okay.
That was a very good episode, and I appreciate you talking.
Thank you.